Today's live stream is not a speculation. It's not opinion. It's evidence. And what we're about to walk through changes the narrative about Goliath Ventures, Inc. in a very real way. We're going to break down a bankrupt court filing that confirms something that many people suspected but could not prove at the time. Investors' funds were not sitting where they were supposed to be. Instead, we now have documented proof that money was held in a third-party account linked to Wealth MD. And that money has now been forced back into the estate. The estate is where all the money has been repooled that they can recover, and it's called the estate. And this is where things start to get uncomfortable, because when you follow the money, you don't just find accounts, you find people. You find relationships and roles that were never properly explained to the investors. One of those names is Matt Burks, who I'm now referring to as a co-conspirator in the Goliath Ventures operation. Now, remember, many of you have seen my list of co-conspirators, and currently we've got about 27 at the top. Let's call it like a pyramid. And Matt Burks is one of the top 5 people that they should be going after. So back in September 2025, a lot of people don't know this, but during the original investigation, I reached out to him directly. And at the time, he was presenting himself as the head of compliance at Goliath Ventures. He responded. He offered to provide what he called extremely relevant information. But despite that opportunity, the core questions were never answered. He actually never got back to me, but promised he would, because he did see that I was on to a smoking gun. Those same questions are still sitting here today. And they are, where did the money actually go? Who was controlling it? And how deep do these connections really run? Today, we're going to look through it step by step. We're going to go look back at the structure behind the promises and the connections between Goliath Ventures and Wealth MD, and how the receiver has now stepped in to start recovering funds through the court process. So this isn't about opinions, and this isn't about personalities. This is about accountability. Because when you're dealing with what could be hundreds of millions of dollars in invested losses, silence is not the answer. And disappearing websites does not erase the truth. So if you've been following the story, or if you've been affected by it, stay with me. Because today, we are not just telling a story, we're going to follow the money. Now, it's very quiet there in the chat room. When I started, I did see 5 people sitting in there waiting for me to go live. I don't know what that is meaning. So I'm just going to have a wee look and check everything's tickly-boo. And we are streaming everywhere we're meant to. So there's no excuse. And there's 16 people online, but no one's chatting in the chat room. So what's going on, guys? Must have been a good introduction. Now, I am Danny DeHeck. I'm a New Zealand-based investigative journalist, and I started investigating Goliath Ventures back in September the 1st, and we published our first bit of content on the 3rd of September. We also did a machine gun of emails out to people that we thought were aiding what we believed Goliath Ventures was doing at the time, and that was running a large-scale Ponzi scheme and scam, unlike anyone I've ever seen before, and I've been doing this for 5 years. Now, I'm privately funded. As much as you may think I'm doing this for clicks and I get enough money to run what I do via YouTube, I don't. But I am getting more awareness and things are going in the right direction. So if you want to support me and keep me here, then I do ask that you do think about either buying me a cup of coffee for $5 or even just hitting the thumbs up of the video that you're watching, or technically speaking, support what I do by engaging with my content. It really does help get the content out there. And honestly, if the content gets out there more, I do get a few extra cents for each video I do, which isn't my drive, but it is a necessity. I haven't ran a large scale Ponzi scheme and scam myself, so I'm not sitting here in a pool of money. So the ways that you can support me is you can literally go to my website, theheck.com, and you'll see down the bottom a support me link that goes off to Ko-Fi. Ko-Fi allows you to buy me anonymously $5 cup of coffee, which is a nice token and a nice gesture. And when you do it, it will pop up on the screen in the chat box, and everyone will say, wow, look, somebody just donated to Danny. That's a bit of interaction, which is always a bit fun. The other thing I have done, if you do go back to my website, on the right-hand side, you'll see 4 orange boxes. In there, you can actually book an express chat with me, where you can talk to me one-on-one, where I may be able to help you. Sponsor a review is a nice, kind thing. You might have an investment opportunity that you're thinking about getting involved in yourself, and you want me and my team to investigate it. Or a support session, and that's normally where somebody's lost for direction, don't know what to do. I do charge for those services. I'm not booked out, but they are available. But I did used to offer my time totally free of charge, and I still do have an element of that. But what I was finding is I can't live on going to bed at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for the rest of my life, and that's literally what time I went to bed last night, 2 o'clock. And I did wake up late, but I diverse. Let's get into it. And the other one I am doing at the moment is I've got a bunch of guidebooks. I'm calling them e-guides. And if you're thinking about getting involved in another opportunity, so for example, Matt Burks hasn't been locked up. He's not incarcerated. He hasn't been formally charged. So what do you think he's doing? He started up another opportunity. We still don't know the name of it. Maybe you do. Let us know. But he's now offering people 3 to 3.5% return on their investments per month on what people are saying. He's claiming it's a legit hedge fund. And also, if you refer people into it, they're offering you a healthy backhander for doing so. Sound familiar? So these guys don't stop. So these guidebooks are designed to actually educate you. Often people contact me and ask me for my opinion. I'm reading out of my own guidebook. They're $5 each, and then you can distribute it to somebody. I don't care about that sort of stuff. So that's my sales pitch, so to speak. But today we're going to go to my website. Now, you can see I'm going to talk about tomorrow's live, which is really cool. There's some comments in the chat room. Nice to see you guys here. Right, so this one here is going to be a real goodie. We're going to do this tomorrow, same time, same place. But what we did is we had a lot of people that were in the bankruptcy hearing, and they provided us a lot of information. So some people took notes and told me what they were asked, and we've gone through what actually happened in, I think it's yesterday's or the 22nd meeting. I haven't heard it, but I've gathered enough information to put out an informative blog. So there were some main points that were discussed, and I've put them in the blog. You won't be able to see it because it's a little bit small, but I actually will increase the size of it just a little bit for now. But the most important thing, all the questions, frequently asked questions from the hearing that they had yesterday or the day before, you can see that we've actually, when will Christopher Delgado be behind bars? And the answer, would you believe, is this.
The U.S. attorney confirmed that formal charges have not yet been filed. At this stage, there is a criminal complaint, but prosecutors are still reviewing evidence and building the case before moving forward with formal charges. What this means is that the case is still developing. This is not a rushed prosecution. It indicates that investigators are likely still gathering evidence, mapping financial flows, and potentially identifying other individuals involved before taking the next legal step.
Yeah, so we've put together now, I think there were 17 questions that we managed to get that were asked, because we had quite a few people help us with information. So if you didn't make the receivers meeting, you can go to that blog, but we will discuss that in depth tomorrow. There I am as a journalist, and all my helpers in the background giving the information so we can bring it to your doorstep. That's just what's going to happen tomorrow. But today we're going to tell you a bit of funny story. I always like to tell my own side of the story when we get started. Now, Matt Burks, I've always said that he needs to go to jail. We believe that he's sort of like a co-conspirator. He's like the utility behind it all. But what people don't realize is I used to be, I was brought up as Jehovah's Witness, and I always call that a cult. So when I see religion being used to scam people, it really disgusts me. Now, if you don't know that Matt Burks was actually a pastor, I think it's a pastor you eat, maybe, in his church. And the church was Redemption Church Lakeside. And I contacted Matt Burks through his email with that church because he was meant to be one of the head pastors. And would you believe they never corresponded with us, but they started scrubbing him from the website. And then we started doing videos, and we were showing videos of him doing his preaching on YouTube, and then they got scrubbed from the website. And then we found videos of him in Facebook doing sermons, and then they got scrubbed from Facebook. So they're trying to, this church, which is basically Matt Burks' congregation, basically have never responded to me, but they have been scrubbing him from the website. So now when you search Matt Burks and you're looking for information, very hard to find any information. And like any good reporter, I always like to back up everything I say with a little bit of evidence. So we've got Matthew Burks, and you go along to a new tab web browser, and we're just going to go search for Matt Burks, and we'll see what comes up in the search results. So nothing spectacular, except here you can see how good my website is exposing people. Matt Burks exposed scam, Ponzi, or MLM. Should be a question under that. But that's my articles. But once upon a time, you could go to the images section here, search for Matt Burks, and you could probably put Lake. And you can see that people have already searched for Lakeland, Florida, because that's the church he used to be part of. So you click on that, and you can see that all these images are now, he's been totally scrubbed from the website. So you can see the Redemption Church still comes up, and that's probably because somewhere in there they probably do mention him, which is a bit of a laugh. So if we go into that article, you'll probably find this article will now get scrubbed. I don't know, but I'm looking for Matt, and there we go. So there you go, Matt. You've got another one to get removed. Matt Burks, executive pastor at Redemption. Let's read that paragraph while we've got it there.
Matt Burks, executive pastor of Redemption Church, said church leaders didn't know the history of the murals or who had painted them. Burks said he appreciated the artistry of the paintings, but said church leaders, realizing how many drivers pass the property each day, decided the wall panels offered a means to broadcast their philosophy that all are welcome.
Well, there you go, inviting people to the church. So it does sort of amaze me that they must be talking about that picture that we saw. But anyway, that's what we're doing. So this guy's been scrubbed from the church. He's got a lot of money. I've heard from people telling me that this guy here, that was the original image that, except I changed his shirt. I thought I'd dress him in a better shirt. So what I'm getting at, guys, is these guys are going to run away with the money. These co-conspirators that I talk about, they don't need to sleuth away. I don't know if that's a word, but they don't need to get away with what they've done, and they need to be held accountable. And that's what this is all about. I'm limited by what I can say and what I can show on the screen, but it's pretty obvious that this guy is not the right type of person. So here he is in the name of God doing deception and running and being the, what do you call it? He was the operation manager for Goliath Ventures. And there is also an active investigation going under the Onyx Reserve, because he was also listed on their website as under operations team. Now, the Onyx Reserve is another scam. It's not to be mixed up with Onyx Reserve. It's called the Onyx Reserve, right? Now, remember, we're talking about Wealth MD. Now, if you go and search for Wealth MD, you will find a legitimate company called Wealth MD. But if you put in the domain name, well, you used to be able to put in the domain name mywealthmd.com, you would find this company called Wealth MD. Now, some people who were talking to me who invested in Goliath Ventures said that Goliath Ventures was part of BlackRock. And I said, no, it's actually Black Block. And if you go to blackblock.com, you won't find them. But you used to be able to go to myblackblock.com and find the website. So these guys are doing deception techniques, but both those companies I just mentioned, Wealth MD and Black Block, the company director was Matt Burks. Now we're finding that the courts have recovered, I think it's $141,000 from Wealth MD. So it just shows you that the money wasn't just in Goliath Ventures bank account, or it wasn't out there working for you guys like you thought with liquidity trading. It was distributed through other companies. That money's been hauled back, and that's what this blog is all about. So it's quite interesting. Do we think Christopher will end up walking free? No, I personally cannot see that being the case. That's a very good question, though, and I'd like to address that before we get started, actually. Now, think about this. Christopher, the receivers talked about yesterday how they went to the offices and the offices had already been stripped dry, basically. They did find a bit of information, but it was actually quite interesting with the correspondence that we got back about it. So Christopher's premeditated his exit. He's been helping the investigators for weeks before he actually handed himself in. All the bank accounts were in his name, and theoretically, he was in control of the company. Now, if you, in the state of Florida, I believe that if you go after elderly people, like Bernie Madoff, Madoff of all the money, so I remember his name, he went after the elderly people, and that carries a 30-year sentence if you go after elderly people. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't as blown up as it was, that he could potentially, I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge, but he could potentially get 6 or 8 years if he theoretically helped the investigators with all the information and really uncovered as much money as he could. But at the end of the day, I would eat my hat if they managed to recover 30% of the money by doing clawbacks. That means your cars, anyone that's associated. For example, we talked about Orlando Economic Partnership. They handed back $190,000. They've just found another $141,000 in a company controlled by Matt Burks in Wealth MD. So that's 330 roughly. And also there'll be a lot of other people like the charities. So it's unfortunately the charities that need the money doing the good probably already spent that money. Now have to get that money clawed back. Which the detrimental effects of what Christopher's done is just out of the world. Now, if he murdered somebody, he's probably going to get 25 years to life. But if you go into a dairy and steal a can of Coke, you'd be fingerprinted, locked up in jail, and appear in court in the morning. But with financial crime, I don't see hardly anything happening. Ironically, there was an individual that was closely related to the jail system who I was talking to, and he said no one in the jail is in there for doing financial crime. So, Christopher, my heart, my hand, I believe he's going to get 20 plus years. That's my thing. If he doesn't, there's no justice. Why am I doing this for? I've always stated that myself and my Avengers are here to name and shame anyone running or promoting Ponzi schemes or scams. But I think disruption is the most important thing. And it would be honest to say, it would be not honest if I didn't say that we had caused a lot of disruption when it came to Goliath Ventures. I mean, they did try and sue me in a Orange County court case. They sent people around to my house to offer me money to go away. They put in writing an offer of $150,000. It just goes on. So I'm hoping, yes, I can only hope. I have no experience, but I would eat my hat, and I don't have a hat, so I don't have to worry, if he didn't get more than 20 years in prison. But something has to change. Something has to change, doesn't it? I mean, really, that these people, how much disruption and harm have these caused people with their monies? People have lost all their mortgage money. I know one guy I was talking to recently, $750,000. I've had phone calls with people that had millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, and I'm not even halfway yet, deposited within Goliath Ventures, their entire life savings. And they took their entire life savings out and put it with Goliath, and the monthly returns they were getting, they were running their businesses on it. So not only have they lost their entire life savings, they've also lost the income they were using to run their businesses. So they've got businesses that have staff working for them. They can't afford to pay their wages. So how silly is the system if we don't see these co-conspirators that actually are the utilities behind people like Christopher Delgado, and we don't see any accountability? Follow the money, because that's where the truth starts hiding. Now, I can't express enough. If you have got any leads, any information, we've got over 330 people on our persons of interest list. So any information that you may have, I'm even getting intel now from people telling me stuff that I should know, but I haven't known. So don't think any bit of information, because we really want to go make this a hunt. We want to go hunt for all the monies that he's paid, all the nightclubs where he's literally spent over $100,000 on alcohol in one night. There's gentlemen clubs that have taken large amounts of money from Christopher. I've been semi-told to shut up about some of the names of the nightclubs that they were frequently, because the people behind them are very powerful people. So that's why you'll hear me saying I won't be mentioning names, because I can't afford to take on all these legal battles, and I've got no real hard evidence. But we don't need hard evidence. We just need common sense. We've seen photos of these individuals in these establishments that look like, for the use of the words, strip clubs, or sexual innuendos all over the place. And we've heard where waitresses has been paid large amounts of cash to go do rude things in the toilets. I've had this from the waitresses telling me the correspondence and all this sort of stuff. So, leave it to your own imagination, but there's a larger circle. There's not just Christopher all by himself running a $328 million scam. There's all the co-conspirators. And this is a great example. And this is not just speculation, as I said. What I'm about to show you isn't theory, speculation, or interpretation. It's a court file document in the ongoing bankruptcy of Goliath Ventures Inc. And like many of these filings, it strips away the marketing narrative and replaces it with something far more uncomfortable: hard financial reality. By the time a case reaches this stage, the language changes, the hype disappears, the promises are gone. What's left is a forensic process, identifying where money went, who holds it, and whether it can be recovered. And in this case, the process has now led directly to a third party. And we're talking about Wealth MD. Now, I'm just going to carry on reading info. I want to go off and show you Wealth MD's website's been taken offline. This matters because it reinforces patterns we've been documenting from the very beginning. That funds didn't just sit neatly inside one entity. They moved. They were distributed, and now, piece by piece, these movements are being dragged back into the light. So the court filing that changes the narrative, the court document that was filed on the 14th of April 2026, agreed motion to turn over estate property. So if I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that Matt Burks was the director of Wealth MD, and now he's agreed to hand back the money that was sitting in the bank account. So that means that they've got eyes on you, Matt, which is absolutely fantastic news for me. So the agreed motion to turn over the estate property is one of the most those moments where the legal process starts being
Procedural.
Procedural starts becoming revealing. According to the filing, the court appointed a receiver identified a relationship between Goliath Ventures and Wealth MD LLC shortly after taking control of the estate of Goliath Ventures. That's not unusual on its own, but what matters is what came next. After a formal demand was issued to Wealth MD, acknowledged that it was holding $141,412 in funds. Now, this is actually terrible, because after a formal demand was issued, so they didn't voluntarily say, oh, by the way, we've got some in Goliath Ventures money. They would have been sitting here quietly hoping that no one noticed. That should be promptly turned over to the debtors. Let's pause on that. Now, I'm going to probably reiterate what I just said. This isn't an allegation. This isn't a theory. This is an admission within the court process that a third party was holding funds tied to Goliath's estate. And the court didn't need to, was that the word?
Litigate
the issue. The motion was agreed. Oh, yeah, it is their money. Meaning Wealth MD did not contest the turnover. Because why would that be, you reckon? I mean, think about that. Just use Danny logic here. Matt Burks is sweating like a rapist, knowing that he's heavily involved in Goliath Ventures Inc. All of a sudden set up two companies with his buddies, Wealth MD and Black Block, not to be mistaken as Black Rock. And then all of a sudden they knock on his door and go, hey, we realize that you might be holding some money from Goliath Ventures. Pause on that for a bit. Yeah, we happen to actually. I'll just have a look in the back corner. Oh, look, here's $141,000 that we didn't have in our books. That detail is important because it removes ambiguity. Is it ambiguity? Is that the word?
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. This wasn't a dispute claim that needed to be proven. It was acknowledged and accepted within the legal framework. Wow. Following the money behind the front-facing brand. One of the biggest misconceptions people have when they get involved in these type of schemes is that the company they see is the company, the company they see is the company holding the money. So everyone didn't even realize that there was other parties involved. That's really the case. What the filing shows is something far more skeptical. Money moving across entities, accounts, and relationships that weren't visible to investors at the time they were depositing the funds. No one had any idea that their money was being distributed, obviously. In this instance, the funds were being held by a TD Bank commercial checking account. Well, that's really interesting because remember, Bank of America and JP Morgan and also Luminous Bank were the bank accounts that were controlling the money for the majority of Goliath Ventures. So now I am assuming that they will now subpoena TD Bank commercials checking accounts, whatever it is, TD Bank. I don't even know what TD Bank is, which I'm so curious now. TD Bank. What is that? Is that a personal bank account? So there's another bank. These guys bounced around bank accounts, didn't they? The account was in the name of Wealth MD LLC, not Goliath Ventures itself. Wow, mate, I don't know if I should say this live on the air in case it is a legitimate company and I get sued. But if you are handling the money for Goliath Ventures under a different brand and a different entity, that could be construed as money laundering. Do you know what I'm saying? Because why is Wealth MD handling the money for Goliath Ventures? And theoretically, Matt Burks is claiming that he was a financial regulator advisor, which he was 3 years ago. He's been struck off. He's no one. He's not a financial advisor anymore. He hasn't kept up with his license because he left his paid job and started working for Goliath Ventures. Now he's got a taste of what it's like being a scammer. He's even thrown away his church, and now he will be literally have to be a scammer for life. Wait until you see the clawbacks coming through and the $1 million home improvements that he did in his house. He'll have to walk away. Anyway, let's I diverged again because it's highlights the key structure, reality, control of the funds, and branding of the opportunity. Wow, that didn't come out right. Because it highlights a key structural reality, control of funds, and branding of an opportunity are often separated. Investors believed they were sending money into one system, when in reality those funds can be routed, held, and managed elsewhere. Considering that, think about this. Your money, you put $100,000 into Goliath Ventures, and you were told that they were using that money to do liquidity pool trading. And all of a sudden now you've found out that your money has been divvied up and sent to other entities without your knowledge. And once that happens, tracing accountability becomes significantly harder, at least until the receiver steps in and starts reconstructing the flow of funds from the outside in. Now, we got a lot of feedback after the live, the court hearing, the High Court hearing that we're going to look at tomorrow. But people in general are actually quite pleased how well the receivers are doing and what they're doing. So my hat's off to them, even though I don't have a hat. I just think that they've done a really good job. Actually, better than I thought, because I was corresponding with some people on Zoom and trying to help with some stuff. And I felt that they weren't really up to speed with what was happening. But after hearing the feedback, it was pretty cool. The role of the receiver, unwinding the illusion. The appointment of Michael S. Budwick, I hope I say that right. I don't want to get that name wrong. Budwick, as receiver marks the point where the control shifts from operations to investigations. And that's the story of what we're always doing. Every time I report to anyone or I'm dealing with any lawyer or court or judge, I'm always asking them to run an investigation, and they don't investigate. So that's why we have these people to do the investigations. From that moment, the job is no longer to run a business. It is to reconstruct what actually really happened. And that's the exciting thing. So how the money moves, I always say to people that come to me, how did you deposit the money? Where did you deposit the money? What was the date of the transactions? And how did you get the money out? That process is methodology.
Methodical.
It involves identifying relations, tracing accounts, issuing demands, and forcing disclosures where it was previously given. It's not fast and it's not perfect, but it's one of the only mechanisms that exist to cut through the noise once the scheme collapses. In days of being appointed, the receiver had already identified Wealth MD as connected to the operation, issued a demand letter, secured cooperation for the return of funds. So that's so cool when I see stuff like happening like that. A lot of people said to me lately, oh, nothing's happening. Danny's gone quiet on Goliath. What are we going to do? Yada, yada, yada. And it's true. I just don't have intel, but these guys are gearing up to speed. It's like they're getting that car up to the maximum speed it can run, the bullet train. So the receivers need to get up to speed. They start filing the paperwork. They give people 7 days to do this, 7 days to do that. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the destination. And it's so exciting. Drink's all gone. No more drinking. Put that over there. That speed tells you something important. The relationships between entities aren't hidden particularly well. They were there, embedded in the structure, waiting to be uncovered once someone with legal authority started pulling the threads. So in some ways, what I like about this Ponzi scheme that Goliath was running, or Christopher Delgado, is the fact that he didn't hide it all in crypto. Because normally we got that sad story, oh, you put your money into crypto and it's literally gone off to the human trafficking compounds and you just can't get it back. So with Christopher, there is a money trail, there is a footprint, there is he's spending it on real world assets, and that's what's quite exciting. Like when I when I investigated Hyperverse, that was $1.9 billion they believe was taken. I've always believed it's $4 billion, but that's a different story. And there's no way of getting any of that money back. People have hope. At the moment, there's an individual claiming that Rory Conacher, he claims that if you pay him $250,000, he'll start recovering your money from Sam Lee. Now, Sam Lee's got no money, so this is where they think all the money is. It doesn't exist. I know Sam Lee's got no money because I know someone who's interviewed him face to face. And then, so no one's got any hope. But then you get these recovery people that give people hope. And it's just ridiculous. So with this particular scam, I do have a bit of hope that the receivers can recover the money with clawbacks. Even if they get 30% of the money back, which would be a good number, at least people that have lost everything can actually get something back. So make sure you do put a proof of claim in. Don't miss out on that opportunity. The Wealth MD connection, names, structure, and credibility. As this investigation progressed, one of the more important threads merged is the role of Wealth MD, and they call it wealth management doctors. Not just the name appearing in the court filings, but the structure, business with identifiable leadership. And there is a lot more to this conversation than I can sort of get into today. But Wealth MD and Black Block were a major part of Goliath Ventures. And obviously we can see that now, even though there's not a hell of a lot of money in there. But they were actually, with Wealth MD, they were actually going after the elderly people. And I've got evidence of that coming up in a little bit. Anyway, not just the name appearing in the court filings, but the structure behind the business with identifiable leadership. I had to say that word twice, didn't I? The company wasn't anonymous. It had founders, credentials, and a public-facing identity designed to inspire confidence. At the center of that were John Travis Little, founding partner, Matt Burks, founding partner. So 50-50, and I haven't got a picture of John Little. I don't know much about him, even though if you go back on the Wayback Machine and go to mywealthmd.com, you'll see his photo proudly on that screen. Hello, Queen and Carmen. Nice to see you here. I'm not any more religion scamming people. What is that? I'm not fond of anyone using religion to scam people. No, it's actually the lowest form in our industry. Nice love hearts there. Susie must be in the room. Is Susie in here? I see love hearts coming up on the screen, and I know Susie is probably not commented yet, but she will be the one that does the love hearts. So don't forget to give me love hearts. I like love hearts. You age-sensitive guy like me. Okay, both men come with traditional financial services background, and I can tell you now that there's no one that had was a registered financial advisor, a current license at the time they were running Wealth Management MD. Okay, but they did have a history of it. Services background with ties to firms like Northwestern Mutual and Mass Mutual. The kind of resume isn't accidental. It's the kind of professional history that lowers skepticism and builds trust quickly, especially amongst investors who are used to dealing with regulated financial advisors. And that's what those companies were designed to do, build trust. All this is, everything I do here is telling you everything they do is to build trust. But that is exactly why their involvement matters, because when you place that credibility alongside the structure of what was being offered, the contrast becomes difficult to ignore. This wasn't a conventional wealth management service. It was something very different, packaged in familiar language. Now, here we go. Let's get into it. How the Wealth MD model was positioned. The Wealth MD offered, what Wealth MD offered was framed as a joint venture rather than an investment product. That distinction is critical because it attempts to
Redefine.
redefine the relationship between the company and the investor. Instead of being clients, participants were positioned as partners. Instead of making an investment, they were contributing capital to a shared opportunity. On paper, that sounds like a subtle shift. In practice, it's significant because it allows the structure to promote outcomes that look like investment returns while accepting to avoid the regulatory obligations that normally come with offering financial products. Investors were encouraged to deposit a substantial sum. There's a WebMD, it was completely different. So they were offering people to put in $250,000 and they were going to get, I think it was 3% per month. Remember, Goliath Ventures was offering up to 8% per month in some cases, and then things happened along the way. And this was, when I saw Wealth MD, I first looked at it and I thought, what they're doing here is they're white labeling Goliath Ventures investment packages, and they're targeting a different audience altogether, which I'll show you in a minute. So they were offering investment packages for $250,000 or more into liquidity pool strategies involving crypto assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT. Here they go. In returns, they were told what to expect. Up to 2% monthly returns for the first million and up to 4% monthly returns on amounts over that. Now, this was disgusting because the money that were going after was the retirement money, the 401ks, which I'll show you in a few minutes. Those returns were framed as being generated from trading fees with liquidity pools. Now, how many people in their retirement knows what a friggin' liquidity pool is? It's just absolutely batshit crazy. At first glance, the explanation sounds technical, modern, but when you examine it closely, several issues emerged. No independently verified trading data, so they had no proof that this money that they were generating for people and the returns was coming from trading. And this is like all the scams that we investigate. No audited performance records. Now, the person that was doing the audit was Matt Burks. Matt Burks was doing the audits for Goliath Ventures. I never ever heard of an audit done for Wealth MD or Black Block, not to be mistaken for Black Rock. No external confirmation of revenue generation. So the whole company was there on a handshake. At the same time, the argument repeatedly emphasized that this was not an independent investment product and not financial advice. That contradiction is not incidental. It's a structural red flag. You don't promote consistent, predictable monthly profits while disclaiming responsibility for delivering them, unless the goal is to risk shift entirely into the investor while retaining control of the funds. So the risk all becomes yours and they keep all the money, which is absolutely batshit crazy. Now, before I get into this movie here, which I do want to play, I want to go to my YouTube channel and I'll tell you how this works. So on my YouTube channel, I basically, all my recordings I do, I never, well, I say never, very rarely record anything not live. So if you go to my live section on my website, live, you will see that I've got new lives coming up. I've got one tomorrow, and I'm doing this one now, and I've got 16 people watching me. Well done, me. I've never had that many. Oh, I have, but I didn't used to get that many. So, well, really thank you for spending the time watching me. However, if you go to the video section of my website, you will see these are the videos that I usually chop my lives. So I'm recording and I'm also streaming live at the same time. And I'm also broadcasting on 6 different places at the same time, which I'll tell you because it's quite interesting. I'm actually broadcasting on X, Twitter, YouTube, as you know, LinkedIn, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble all at the same time, which is absolutely fantastic. But when I chop up these videos, they will turn up on here, and they won't have what do you call it, uncut all over them. But when you come down here, there was a really, and it's quite relevant for me to show you this, but one of the videos that they tried repeatedly getting off my YouTube channel at the time. Remember, these guys did denial server attacks against my website for 2 months. They also tried to bribe me with $150,000 to take down my Goliath Ventures videos and write a Dear John letter. And it was because of one video which exposed the company. And it's this video here. So if you're going through my channels, you can see them all coming down the stairs. And this was the 2024 Christmas party where they spent only $500,000 on celebrations that year. You can even see I'm in the picture on the back side. But this is significant.
A lot of people have money
because this one video took down basically Goliath, and it was their own video. One of my Avengers found this on a Vimeo chat. It had 39 views, and we've now got, well, we've put it on the internet numerous times. We've had a lot of struggle keeping this video alive on the internet, but they've finally given up because everyone's seen it. But in here, this whole presentation is Matt Burks, Piers Curry, doing a presentation all about black block, not to be mistaken as black rock. And you can actually go through, if you get to the right place, and here you can actually see, I think this is where they're talking about Wealth MD. I think this is Wealth MD. But well worth watching this 1 hour, 47 minutes and 16 long video, because you can see they were using this to give credibility to Goliath Ventures, but the charge was led by Black Rock, not to be mistaken as Black Rock. I'm going to get that wrong. I don't have to say that. I just like saying that, by the way. But this whole video here that you're looking at crucified what they were doing. We sit here even today. I've watched this video maybe 5 times. Every time I watch it, I hear them. The whole company structure was explained in that video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put that video link in the chat room. And if you want to, bookmark it and watch it if you're still sitting here trying to figure out what they actually did, because it's breathtaking. So when you go to my wealth. So if you go to my wealth, now we're going to go to archive.org. The first thing we're going to do is just going to go to the website today, and it's been taken offline. So we need to go to the Wayback Machine, and we put in the Wayback Machine. And now you can see that this company, it looked like somebody owned the domain name back here, and then it was lit up when they started up. And when you go to here, you can come down here and you'll find any timestamp. And when you go to the website, you get what looks like, well, some people might think this looks professional, but this is something that I'm glad it's come up. I've got the wrong one. But you can see that Piers Curry is using WordPress. And he's the one that's either constructed the website, or he's the one behind the website. Now, Piers Curry is a guy that is a co-conspirator. But when you get to the actual website, this is what it looks like. So you come down here, anyone in their right minds, and you'll see a couple here, a man and a lady. These videos, when you click on, they won't work in the Wayback Machine. We lost them, but we found them. And if you go to today, well, when they started getting scrutinized and I started doing videos on that, they were going after the elderly people, they kept the website up and they removed the videos. But we already had them. So what we're going to show you right now is the videos. And this is why I'm saying that this Wealth MD company is heavily involved, because they were repackaging what Goliath Ventures was offering. Instead of offering 3%, they were going out to the retired people and offering 2%, or as I just said before, 4% if you put in over $1 million. If you take your money out of your 401ks, in some cases, you've got to pay a fine of something like $30,000. Well, not a fine, but you get you can lose $30,000. And I think you may get taxed on it as well. I'm not sure, but I know you have to make it pretty appealing to people to take their money out of is it a hedge fund? I don't know where you keep your retirement money, but pretty wicked stuff. But anyway, let's just have a wee watch of this. And this video is on my YouTube channel. Oh, Danny, where are you? The videos that I knew I had. Right, so, okay, so I explained about that, but we got to about... In IT, Punit Shaw. He has recruited... Oh, so there's actually... crypto mining. So there's whatever he sets up in future John Little is and Matt Burks on there. Continue his dream of fooling people out of their money. These people need to be made accountable. About here. That's me raving on.
Stuff getting ready to go to the accountant. I wasn't good enough to do the original filing and everything. But I am not a stock person, and I know nothing about it. I had this person back before, and he went back to years that he set up some of the accounts for me, and for lists too. So we had, at least 2 accounts each with this man. And then when COVID came along, and of course Les had passed away, and I needed somebody to physically look at me and talk to me, but he would never come and spend time with me. Plus he was flipping between different agencies, and I don't have my license totally vended with whoever, because with COVID, there's no point in me paying somebody to be with them and we're not in operation, which I could understand. But there became a point, come look me in the eye and talk to me. So I've got help now. I was getting my estate redone, and then Mike told me about John to help me do what I needed to do, because there was a relationship there that he had too. And it worked out well, because the attorney and these people are doing a good job for me. Well, for one thing, they care about me. It's not just a money thing, but they show an interest in me as a person. Mm-hmm. And
sure they do.
I need small favors from them, which may not be so small, but anyway, if I call and say I need help with this, and it has nothing to do with their business, they're there. So I'm a person to them, not just somebody that they collect a fee from. That I ask a question, I want an answer. Don't sit there and look at me like I've got 2 heads or something. And these guys answer my questions. That's what I want. I would recommend John to anyone, friends, people I care about, to have him meet with them and discuss their issues, because I feel sure he can help.
And stopped by the pharmacy a couple of times, introduced himself, dropped off some information, some literature. I was a little skeptical at first.
Let's see if I can get that better.
My name's Jeff. I'm a retired pharmacist, and we live out in Haines City. I have a wife and no children, 2 dogs. What we did then is we got our finances together, everything that we had asset-wise, and we came down to the office and met. So they knew where I stood with 401ks, pensions, checking accounts, savings accounts, that type of thing, what properties I owned. And we went from there. We got a strategy on how to save and to look towards retirement. We would meet yearly, and usually every time I came in, it was a pleasant surprise. The accounts going up, or they would find new accounts out there that I could transfer funds from one account to another and make a bonus money. So there was those kind of surprises, but and there was a lot of them. So yeah, I'm retired. My wife is very reluctant to give it up, but it's going to happen any day now, and we know from meeting yearly that we're very well set for the rest of our lives to really enjoy life, which is what we're doing already, but we feel very well secure. Okay, yeah. No, I would definitely recommend them, John in particular, for any financial retirement goals. Yeah, I'd feel very confident giving his name out to any of my friends or relatives.
Wow. How do you feel about that? So there's a few interesting things about that video. For a start, I don't believe for a minute. So if those two individuals are still with us, reach out to me, because I think you're paid actors, because they were reading too much of a script. They were saying everything that anyone given a testimonial or wanting a testimonial wants to hear. And also there's a guy called Gary Rice. Gary Rice was the videographer. Now, we've seen him filming Tomo, we've seen him filming Christopher, and the whole 9 yards. We've seen this guy around. So the fact that those two people were actually in the same premises. So you can see the premises that she's in and he's in. Obviously, they've gone to a place. It's not their home, or maybe it is their home. I didn't feel that those two were actually together. So I believe this whole video was rigged. But what I'm getting at is there was probably a videographer called Gary Rice, who I believe did this filming, because I've seen this set up before, professional lighting, the whole 9 yards, whatever. And we just saw a YouTube live of Tomo just before he got fined $220,000 by the courts for stealing somebody's franchise, iDiverse. And he had Gary Rice helping him with the film setup. So these are co-conspirators. These videos were, I believe, done under deception. They were there to encourage people to look at the Wealth MD product. These videos were put on there to build that relationship and trust with elderly people, and they were targeting people who with their 401k. Now, why is that a good thing? Well, because you can get 30 years in prison by doing that, going after people's 401ks. And we've got proof of that because Mady Murdoch, he made off a lot of money. Now, I picked up on that too. Small favors. What? I noticed that when she said that. I thought, what is she talking about? Are they the mob? What is happening? The videos, these videos really bother me. They do me as well. But if you think about it, but when you watch them, we struggled to get them, and they're going to be in another environment soon, those very videos, because I was hunting around everywhere because I knew I saved them somewhere, couldn't find them, but managed to find them and got them. So that was quite good. But I believe they're all staged. I don't believe for a minute it's real. I don't think the company was established long enough to actually have a history like they were talking about in those videos, things like that. You sort of start to sniff around. However, I'm also open to be wrong. So if the couple that were in those two videos want to reach out to us, as I said in a previous video, I did try and hunt down the pharmacist, the guy, and we thought we did find him, and I did actually ping off an email to what I believe was still his email address to see whether he had been involved with WebMD. We do our due diligence, ladies and gentlemen, but we got crickets back, no answer, no bounced email. So who knows? But if you are those couples, do reach out to us. Love to hear from you. So getting away from the videos and Matt, we've got Matt and John signing up people under Wealth MD. Now we know that they've been handling the money for Goliath Ventures. The connection and the wider ecosystem. The individuals linked to these separate operations extend beyond just the founders. The names that repeatedly appear within the ecosystem include John T. Little, Matt Burks, Matthews, and I always get his name wrong, Malcolms, Aaron Thornton, was it Thornton? Thornton and Piers Curry. Now, funny enough, as we go through our footage, we've got video footage twice of Aaron, once on a private jet heading somewhere, And another time in the video I showed you that was 1 hour, 47 minutes and 16 seconds long. And obviously Piers Curry. So Piers Curry was putting everything into Goliath Ventures, hoping to get enough money to make a withdrawal so he could build his lovely house. Last I heard, he was running Zoom meetings. And we did have what we call Avengers actually in those Zoom meetings gathering intel, and he was still offering Goliath Ventures to people even in September and October. How about that? These names surface across multiple platforms, presentations, and promotional material connected to Goliath Ventures, Wealth MD, and Black Block, not to be mistaken as Black Rock, alongside Wealth Management ND. Yet another related website emerged during our investigation, and that was My Black Block, not to be mistaken with Black Rock. I'm going to get sick of saying that, aren't I? This site should not be confused with a legitimate financial institution, Black Rock. Well, there you go. Just as wealthmd.com should not be confused with a legitimate wealth management firm called Wealth MD. Do you see the similarities and what they're doing there? That's an every day in the office for a scammer. Both websites appear to mirror the branding and tone of legitimate financial companies while promoting opportunities tied to the same network of individuals. They're offering the same services, in other words. The overlap is not a coincidence. It's a deliberate strategy designed to borrow legitimacy from established institutions without actual operating under their regulatory framework. It's just like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. You know, Pepsi isn't Coca-Cola. It's a completely different identity selling the same product, theoretically. The disappearing evidence. There's another detail that shouldn't be overlooked. The digital footprint is disappearing. So the website wealthmd.com is now offline. Promotional material that once explained the opportunity had been removed. Videos that previously featured endorsements, walkthroughs, and investor-facing narratives are no longer publicly accessible. Now, that's absolutely major. You think about it. Here we are. We've had a comment that I'm going to find here. So this one here going across the screen. Yeah, I heard news that they were publishing warnings, pushing warnings, and each website is closing. They kept replacing the website, but immediately they were shut down. Oh, I haven't heard that before, so that's some good intel there. So, but at the end of the day, if this company was legitimate, why are both their websites now offline? And why is Matt Burks the director of both those companies, and now he's off doing another thing, which we still haven't found out the name of what he's offering? This isn't unusual in cases like this. When scrutiny increases, visibility decreases. But in this case, some of the material that was preserved before it disappeared, copies of presentations, archive pages, and recorded videos that capture how the opportunity was originally being positioned to investors, that matters because it prevents the narrative from quietly overwritten without challenge. Now, we have the PowerPoint presentations for Wealth MD, and we also have those two videos of that lovely couple and that lovely man, which I believe are paid actors. So what I'm getting at is if anyone needs that information, who is in the court system, we have it. Just ask us. We have a database of all these individuals. What we are seeing now is aftermath of the collapse. Content being scrubbed, associations being quietly removed, and public narratives being reshaped after fact. The polished marketing disappears first, followed by the people who once stood behind it. That behavior doesn't prove wrongdoing on its own, but it does follow a pattern that I've seen repeatedly in similar investigations. When the money stops, the marketing disappears, and the individuals involved begin creating distance between themselves and the very opportunity they once were promoting. Now, they were waving flags of celebration on how wonderful their structure was. You know, as Matt Burks did to me when I emailed him, he wanted to come back with some critical information to clear up my thinking, which he never did. The court confirmed money trail. Right, what elevates this behind speculation is the legal confirmation. We now know that Wealth MD was holding $142,412 in a TD bank account that had been formally identified as property of Goliath's estate and has been returned to the bank bankrupt process. This wasn't uncovered through marketing claims or whistleblower leaks. It was identified by a court-appointed receiver, go you, the document in a formal filing and agreed to by parties involved. So Matt Burke didn't hold back the money or deny it. He just gave it back quickly. There was no dispute, no prolonged argument, just clear acknowledgement that the funds existed that needed to be handed back. Wow, that matters because it moves the discussion out of the realm of opinion and into the realm of verifiable court-backed facts. It replaces assumptions with documents and forces the conversation away from narratives and into evidence that can be tested and examined. Now, think about this. I always say that the media are quite lazy and they don't do any reporting unless they have a court document in their hand. To me, they always report the news at the bottom of the cliff rather than investigating. Like, I thought newspapers were investigative journalism. Very rarely do you get investigators that now report stuff before they have a court filing. However, in this case, we do have a court filing, and I'm wondering why other newspapers aren't publishing the same content that I'm doing right now. Haven't seen a sniff of it yet. But more importantly, it shifts the focus because once you establish the funds were sitting in a third-party account, the question is no longer whether they were connected. The real question becomes, what role did WealthMD play in the movement, control, and handling of investors' funds? And how many other accounts like this are still out there waiting to be identified? Black Block comes to mind. Now, the right of reply and unanswered questions. If there's nothing to hide, there should be nothing to avoid. As part of my original investigation with Goliath Ventures back in September 2025, I contacted Matt Burks directly and demanded a response. This isn't a casual outreach. It was a clear opportunity to address the evidence and explain the structure and provide transparency around what was being promoted to investors at the time. To be accurate, there was an initial reply on the 6th of December, so I'm only 3 days in to my investigation. Well, 3 days after I've published content. I was investigating since the 1st of September. Matt Burks responded offering to provide extremely relevant information and requested a Zoom call before publication, signing off as the head of compliance at Goliath Ventures, Inc. However, despite that offer, no substantial written response was addressed. The core questions was never provided, and those same issues remained unresolved today. So that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get together on a Zoom meeting and discuss it head to head. Now, considering that I received a $150,000 bribe in paper and everyone in Goliath knew about it because I've had intel from people that associate with Goliath people, they all knew that Danny DeHeck was a threat, and they actually had talked about even knocking me off in one candid conversation. So Matt wanting to do a Zoom meeting with me it could have potentially been him trying to make me disappear, not physically, but by shutting me down. But no doubt he did research on me beforehand and then decided it would be better not to talk to me. Now, exactly the same thing happened with the Onyx Reserve guy. Eric and Tommy have written to me in big red writing telling me that they had no association with Goliath Ventures at all and no money had ever changed hands. And then we found out that Matt Burks was in operations for those companies, and it was publicly advertised on their website and on their pitch deck PowerPoint presentations that they were telling people to invest in their companies. Now, I can tell you now that the Onyx Reserve is also being investigated. But just like WebMD and Black Block, not to be mistaken as Black Rock, so far we haven't got any connection directly other than Matt Burks. So Matt Burks is still out there. Now, we have written to Eric and we've written to Tommy and we've asked them to answer certain other questions, and we've just got crickets. Sound familiar? Certainly does, doesn't it? So let's get into it. Why promote an opportunity with no verifiable external revenue source? How can a structured claim independence while operating with the same ecosystem as Goliath Ventures and Black Block? Do you follow that? So they claim to be independent, but they're not. They were basically, if you've invested in WebMD management, is that right? My Wealth MD, you were actually really invested in Goliath Ventures because it was a white labeled service, I believe, anyway. Why rely on branding, narrative, and technical language instead of audited financial proof? There are theoretical concerns. I think that's theoretical.
Theoretical.
It is. They are the same questions regulators, investigators, and now court-appointed receivers would be asking when trying to understand where the investors' money went and how it was managed. What do they do with this money, and why was money moving through Wealth Management MD is the question. I have also raised questions about broader associations, including connections that have been publicly referenced in relation to Redemption Church. Let's have a look at that while we're there. So I love bringing up these churches. So in the name of God, Jesus changes everything. Jesus. Okay, so in here, as I've said, all the photos that we did have at one time with Matt Burks in here have all been scrubbed. If you go into their Instagram, and if you go into their Facebook, if you go into the staff and leaders, Matt Burks used to be right here, and now they've ripped them out. Boy, that looks a lot like that FX trading guy, doesn't it? Just saying. But you can see they're actually quite proud. And nothing, I'm not saying this church has got anything wrong, but this church was told about Matt Burks, and they didn't reply to me. Once again, it sounds like the Orlando Economic Partners, they didn't respond to me either, but they scrubbed Matt Burks from their website. So if you go through here, and you have a look, you would have to ask the question, if Matt Burks wasn't doing anything shady, then why did you decide it would be a good idea to remove him from your social media? So they've done a good job here, because I'm actually curious now whether we're going to stumble across a Matt Burke video of some sort, or they really have gone to town and made sure that they removed him. So that is kind of funny in a way. So I would love to know, if I was anyone, I would actually be writing to someone like me and say, look, we were absolutely gutted when we found that Matt Burks was associated with Goliath Ventures and the chief operating manager, and we've tried our best to clean up the rubbish that we saw about him on the internet, instead of just quietly scrubbing and hoping that. So who knows whether Matt Burke is one of the financial drivers of this church. Wonder if this church needs to be questioned, and to find out whether they were actually ever financially supported or gifted. This could be a reason why they are removing Matt Burks from their social media, because they have received funds. Who would know? So how do you go about finding that? Well, that's what the job of the receiver is. He would go through associated companies like this and find out the connections that they have. And I'm going to find a photo of him, because I reckon I've got a better eye for what Matt looks like than the church. And let's see if we can find one. Wouldn't that be funny? Imagine finding Matt Burke still on their website, and the person that got told to scrub him from the website, and then all of a sudden we find a picture of Matt doing his thing. So why is it that these investment opportunities often wrap themselves around religion? I mean, it really is a very bad thing, isn't it? I don't even know how long Matt Burke was in this church, to be honest. One thing I did do is when I got to the Wayback Machine, I found their pages which showed what do you call it? They show the history, our team page, so to speak. Then it wouldn't go back that far. So I don't even know how long Matt was part of this church. And I wouldn't put it past Matt Burks being associated with this church, with the idea that being around a community that might potentially invest in Goliath Ventures or Wealth Management MD. I don't really know. But it's pretty obvious that this organisation here has scrubbed Matt Burke from their social media. And it's a little bit frustrating, but somebody got that job on a Sunday afternoon to go through and delete everything to do with Matt Burks. But I still think they will have one photo there. So maybe if you want to, you can actually go to Redemption Lake Land, and you can find these their Instagram. And maybe if you know anyone in that church who would like to secretly, anonymously tell us why Matt's no longer found on their page, and why they didn't at least write me an email to explain why, rather than just trying to hide it. Because I believe there will be people in this church that have invested in Goliath Ventures or WebMD who have lost money, and it will be hurting them. So there's bound to be, I'm just wondering if he's in the band. That's not him playing there, is it? No. Could be him. That's not him playing the guitar, is it? Maybe you missed one, guys. Anyway, so that was their Instagram, and then we can go to the photos, and now we could. So all the sermons that Matt was doing have all been scrubbed, but I think we're going to be doubling up here. But yeah, wouldn't it be funny to see they've still got one? They must have done a play recently. No, people getting baptized, that's a bad thing to do. Don't do that, trust me. Anyway, you get the point. I'm just curious. There's bound to be one. Anyway, he's gone. He's been scrubbed from the churchy wurchy. The church doesn't want anything to do with him, but the government does at the moment, and that's the exciting thing. All right, so let's get rid of that. Let's get back on target. Say goodbye. Yeah, so say goodbye to that. That doesn't exist. Say goodbye to the bank where the money was sitting. Say goodbye to Wealth Management MD, and we're back to our blog. So the Redemption Church, because when financial promotions inserted in sets, I'm going to just read that, just get my flow going again.
Promotions intersect with community or institutional trust, the responsibility to be transparent becomes even greater. Since then, references to Matt Burks appear to have been removed from the Redemption Church website and associated social media, which only adds further context to the situation.
At the time of writing, no further correspondence had been provided, and the silence doesn't answer the questions, but it does become part of the record. And if that changes, I will update the blog to reflect it. So yes, so I'd love to have a writer reply from Redemption Church in Lakeside. I'd love to know. And thank you very much for the donation. I really appreciate that, Froggy. It's I'm leaping for joy. So really appreciate that. It really keeps everything going. Why this matters for victims. If you've lost money to Goliath Ventures, this type of finding is both encouraging and sobering. Encouraging because it shows the funds are being located, identified, and pulled back into the estate. So make sure you do put your proof of claim in. That process is real, and it's one of the few mechanisms victims have once a scheme collapses. So it's, I'm just going to read that because I'm going to blur that up.
That process is real, and it's one of the few mechanisms victims have once a scheme collapses. It means the investigation isn't just theoretical. It's actively tracing where money went. Sobering because of the scale.
Yep. Yeah, it's very sad, We're talking about only $141,412 identified in this instance, in a case involving claims that were significantly larger. The gap isn't a rounding area. So it's a reminder how these structures operate. Money is distributed, fragmented, and moves across multiple accounts and entities long before anyone steps in to unwind it. By the time the recovery begins, what's left is only a fraction of what went in. That's the reality of these situations. Recovery rarely happens in full. It happens in pieces over time and often unevenly. What's that word?
Unevenly.
Yeah, it's not all going to come rushing in. There's no big pile of $1 million worth of crypto, is there, Jonathan Mason? So we got Jonathan Mason, hasn't popped up in the chat room today, but yesterday he's in here telling us that we will all be told. What does he say? We'll all be proven wrong because he's seen crypto wallets with $1 billion worth of money in it. And I don't know why Christopher, being such a fun-loving guy, doesn't just repay everyone's money if that is the case. And that raises a critical question that sits at the center of the entry process. How many other entities were holding investors' funds that may not have yet been identified? Because if one third-party account was taken already surfaced this early in the investigation, it suggests something much larger, broader, a network of accounts, a relationship with financial pathways, and that may still be sitting just inside the immediate visibility. So they're going to go after the low-hanging fruit. And until those are fully recovered, the true scale of both the operation and the potential recovery remains incomplete. So don't lose faith, guys. I do believe there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be clawed back. And as I said earlier on, imagine getting 30% recovered from a $328 million scam. Now, if you've lost $100,000, if you've lost $5 million, 30% of that is better than a kick in the teeth, isn't it? And I'm not trying to say you should be hanging out for all of it, but even any money back is a miracle. Oh, I got to bed too late last night. Anyway, legal framework, what the court is actually doing. It is important to understand what the filing does, and just as importantly, what it does not do. It does not assign blame, it does not determine liability, and it does not establish wrongdoing. Okay, but will there be criminal charges coming forward? Well, tomorrow we're going to talk about the possibility of that. Yes, I'm overwhelmed with excitement for what happened with the court hearing and the receivers and how well that went. I actually restored faith in the legal system. So that's exciting. We'll discuss that tomorrow. At this stage, the court isn't trying to answer the bigger questions about intent or responsibility. It's focusing on something far more immediate and practical, identifying the assets and bringing them back under control of the estate so that the process can move forward. Instead, it enforces a simple legal principle under the US bankruptcy law. If an identity is holding property that belongs to the estate, the property must be returned. So you may be sitting on your winnings from the casino. You may have invested with Goliath Ventures. You may be thinking, I can just keep that money and no one will know. You may have spent it on a new car or a home improvement, and then all of a sudden you'll be told to give your clawbacks back. And there's a lot of that happening out there at the moment. I know one investor, $1.5 million, he's taken out his $1.5 million and he's put that back in his bank going, thank goodness I got out of this. And he was actually using the leftover money to actually reinvest. So that money will all be clawed back now if it wasn't left on the platform, which it probably was anyway. That principle still sits at the core. The principle sits at the core. Sorry, that's not right. The principle sits at the core of the process. It does not require. Have I read this already? It does not require proving forward. It does not require untangling every relationship. It simply requires establishing that the funds are connected to the estate. And once that threshold is met, the obligation to return them follows. That's it. So easy peasy. So basically any money that is associated to Christopher that's sitting out anywhere will be given. If you don't give it back, you'll get told to give it back. No narrative, no positioning, no marketing, just legal obligation reinforced through the court system, backed by I never can say that word anyway. Statutory authority and executed through the process designed to prioritize recovery over debate. And while it may seem narrow in scope, this step is critical because every dollar recovered here is one step closer to understanding how the system actually functioned and where the money ultimately flowed. And that's what it's all about, guys. It really is. They say follow the money. So if they're going to go to WebMD and get $141,000, all of a sudden WebMD has to explain why they had that money sitting there and what role they play. Who knows what WebMD's role actually is with Goliath? Why did they have money from Goliath Ventures, and what were they doing with that money? Good question, isn't it? And that's why these investigations are great. The pattern becomes clearer. When you step back and look at this alongside everything else we've uncovered, a consistent pattern begins to emerge. Not just in isolated incidents, but across the structure in a whole. Right, so we've got multiple entries operating within the same ecosystem. So that's really a major, as I said, Black Rock, not to be mistaken as Black Rock. We've got that right, Black Rock, yep. And then Wealth MD. And now I'm going to chuck another one in there. I want to know what association the Onyx Reserve actually had. The Onyx, have I got that? Onyx Reserve. So this company here, I believe their website's going to disappear soon. If you go through this website claims that they've got 60 sports people that use, and these two individuals here, these guys are going down. I believe. And I'm happy to say that on camera and even at this stage of our investigation, because these two guys have already emailed me stating they had nothing to do with Goliath Ventures other than having Matt Burks as in their operations team, which they claim they took out. So if you go and start exploring these people, so this is where Matt Burks was once sitting here, and these individuals, so we had Matt Burks in here as the operations manager. So look at this. So this is the replacement they've got for Matt Burke. Isn't that crazy? So if you go through this and you find it enough and you go to their Instagram, not Instagram. Yes, so here you've got a corporate structure going off to an individual's page. If you go into the more area, here, look at what they're offering. So this guy here, Eric McNeil, is saying passive incomes of 5 to 7 every month. That's what he's offering. I don't know why he's leaving that on his YouTube account. This guy, these guys, they're doing very much the same. This is a website which had Matt Burks in it. So let's just take it out there and let's just say, who else is associated with Goliath Ventures? You need to come forward if you know. You can reach out to me anonymously via the contact page on dehek.com. With no C in Dehek, by the way. So it's dehek.com. And give me anonymous information. I would love to find the connection between the Onyx Reserve and Matt Burks and Goliath Ventures, because I've already received an email and then I've got crickets. That's how all my investigations start. Multiple entries operating within the same ecosystem. Funds not held where investors believe they were deposited. Money moving through third-party accounts. Recovery only beginning once external control is imposed. These aren't random observations. They are structural indicators of how this type of operation is designed to function. Layers, fragmented, and deliberately difficult to trace from the outside. When investors are interacting with a single brand, they assume a single point of control. But when the case shows, when this case shows, but what this case shows is something completely different. A network of entities, each playing a role, each handling different parts of the flow of the money. That separation creates both operational flexibility and a level of, I'm not going to get that right. I'm going to get it wrong anyway, I think. So I'm just going to read that I'll read these two paragraphs. Give Danny a break for a bit.
That separation creates both operational flexibility and a level of opacity that makes early detection far more difficult. This isn't unique to Goliath Ventures.
No, it's a structure that repeats itself across many high-yielding and crypto-linked schemes. Complex enough to appear legitimate, but disconnected enough to obscure accountability. The same language, the same positioning, are often the same promises, just repackaged under different names and entities. What makes this case different is that we now have court-backed confirmation of those mechanics in action, not assumptions, not marketing claims, not second-hand accounts. The documented evidence showing that funds are sitting outside the core entity and had to be formally recovered through legal intervention. And that changes the conversation entirely. So my final thoughts: the illusion versus the paper trail. At the height of any scheme, everything feels controlled. There are dashboard, updates, explanation, and carefully managed narratives that gives investors confidence that the system is working exactly as described. And that's what it's like, guys. That's just like Matt Burks wrote to me telling me that he wanted to get on a Zoom and clear the matter up. That's what they do. They firefight anyone that asks those questions, anyone that wants to know the truth. And as soon as they start asking the questions, you get managed. That is not how a legitimate company works. Imagine going to your bank and start asking some questions about the who's the executive in the bank. I'm pretty sure you'd be able to work your way and talk to the bank manager if you demanded to. These companies don't. They come up with excuses and they're firefighting most of the time. So start asking questions and stop laying down and letting people walk over you. Numbers move, balances grow, and the experience is designed to feel predictable. Is it predictable? No, I don't think it's right.
predictable,
It is structured and real. But that confidence is built on presentation, not verification, because once the collapse begins, the illusion fades quickly. What replaces it isn't reassurance, it's documentation. And documentation does not rely on belief. A lot of people want to believe these schemes. I think it's true. I feel good about it. It's not about that. You want to see the receipts. It relies on evidence. And we're truth seekers. We're going out there asking those questions. We want to know the answers. We want transparency. These people are telling you to have a belief like it's a religious cult. It strips everything back from the fundamentals and asks the questions that we never properly, so that the fundamentals and it strips everything back to the fundamentals and asks the questions that never properly answered at the time. Where's the money? Who controls it? And can it be recovered? This filing is one step in answering those questions. It's not the full picture. It is not a verified piece of the puzzle, grounded in legal process, and does not care about the branding narrative's promise. It cares about tracing funds and establishing control. And what it confirms is something many investors were never told or were never given the opportunity to properly ask the question. The money didn't stay where it was supposed to. It moved. It was held elsewhere. It sat in accounts outside the structure investors believed they were participating in. Now, through the legal process, the movement is being reconstructed, documented, and where possible, reversed. Not through speculation, not through marketing, but through the system that forces transparently, one step at a time. The account, one account at a time. So isn't that, to me, that's quite cool. That's just a show of what these receivers are doing. So here was the official document, which is linked on the blog. You can come here and you can actually read the agreed motion for turnover of estate property. And that was a document which is actually 8 pages long. So it wasn't contested. In fact, it was all handed back by Wealth Management MD, otherwise known as Matt Burks. I just think it's disgusting that it's got to that stage, though, and I do feel for people. Like tomorrow's blog's going to be even better because we're not going to have religion involved in tomorrow's blog. But I do what I am saying is if you don't want to get bitten by investment scams, then either stop investing or start asking the questions. If you don't get the answers, I've said this in yesterday's thing, but there's a yogi, I was a karate instructor, and he was telling his student, he said, if you don't understand, don't move. And I think that's really cool. So a lot of the jargon that they use with these crypto opportunities. Now, think about this. Goliath Ventures wasn't actually doing anything decent. They weren't generating any returns on the investments with liquidity pool trading. They weren't doing any water-cooled crypto mining. And the returns they were offering doesn't actually sustain itself from the investments they were telling that they were doing with what they were doing. So it wasn't a crypto company. So you've got to ask the questions. If somebody's going to give you what you want, 3% return per day, 8% return per month, then you want to ask, how does that happen? And they'll give you some technical jargon that you won't understand. If you don't understand, don't move. Don't do anything. There's no urgency to part with your money. The fear of missing out tactics is what they employ. The friendship that they tell you that you're going to have with people and individuals. It's all about, oh, look, your mate Jimmy, he did it. Oh, right. Or Jimmy might have introduced you into it, and he'll get a little bit of a reward for introducing you. You'll get rewards if you introduce other people to it. This is all bullshit stuff, guys. You don't go to the bank and open up a bank account, and the bank says to you, have you got any mates? Have you got any rich mates? If you bring in these rich mates, we'll give you a cut of what they put in the bank. That's what people are doing in this investment world that we live in with crypto. So just don't fall for that rubbish. Start asking those questions. It's your money. You don't have to do anything with your money. If you're not happy with the interest that the bank pays, then look at it from a different perspective. Leaving your money in the bank secures your principal. They ask for your principal and then give you the interest that you want using your principal. The bank doesn't do that. The bank will get your $100,000, rush off to the government and go, hey, I've got $100,000 here. Can I loan against it? And the bank says, the government goes, yes, here's another $100,000 you can lend out to people in a mortgage. The banks might be corrupt if you want to go down that track. But the scare tactics people give us on a daily basis telling us about the banks. The banks are corrupt and they're the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. And the government's a Ponzi scheme and all this sort of carry on. Well, I haven't actually heard of anyone losing their principal by investing their money. Well, yes, there is extreme cases, of course, but the majority of the time you can put your money in the bank and have it safe. Now, what you're going to learn is how to become entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurial is not giving your money away to somebody who's giving you some of your money back. Entrepreneurial is like coming up with a product or a service that you can sell and then making money from doing so. And then when you make a profit in your business, which is hard to do you put that profit into your bank. So let's say you have $200,000 in the bank and you spend $50,000 setting up a company. It doesn't work. So then you go, I'm going to do it again. You found something else, but the learnings that you would have learnt along the way could be really valuable. Now, I was speaking to a multi-million-dollar person here in New Zealand, Mr. Cookie Time, and he makes these great cookies, and they were fantastic cookies. They had big hunks of chocolate in them, and they were tasty. They weren't very good for you, but they were nice. And his company was called Cookie Time. He didn't sell cookies for a living. He sold jars. He took a long time to figure out how to sell his jars. So one day he came up with this idea of these big round jars. And this was at the time when the dairies or the 7-Elevens, if you want to call them, they didn't have all the stuff on the counter. And he used to sit his big jar right by the cash register of his cookies. So when people were at the cash register, they'd lean over and grab a big cookie, and you could hardly get the cookies out of the jar. He went to, I think, 150 dairies or little wee convenience stores in Christchurch, and 148 of them agreed to keep his jars in the shop. And at the time, I think the cookies were like $1.50. The dairy got 50 cents of it, and he got $1. He made himself a multi-million-dollar guy out of that. Anyway, I used to run a business networking company, and I asked him to come along to do a talk. And he got involved in some other business that didn't go too well. And because I knew him well enough, I said, tell me about Aristotle. And he looked at me because I insinuated he failed in a business venture. And he pointed at me and he said, I've never failed in business. I said, because every time he said, he said, how did he put it? He said, and it's really well to get it good. He said, when your failures are compost for your next business venture. So what are you saying? Every time you fail as an entrepreneurial person, that is learnings. And if you use those learnings and put them into your next venture, you're going to do well. Now, have you learnt from what's happened with Goliath? It's devastated you. Are you going to hand over your money to somebody else who makes such outrageous claims on return on investment in the future? No. Is that what I've just said going to help you get your money back? No. But look, in 3, 5, 10 years, you'll be back on your feet. And you might be able to help somebody else who's telling you how good an investment opportunity is they've heard about that their friend's doing. And that's kind of what you want to do, guys. You want to learn from this. Getting your money back, well, I believe we might be able to get 20 or 30% of your money back, and that would be really cool. But at the end of the day, guys, any money is going to be great. Any money is going to be good. But what can you take away from what's just happened? Hey, look, I hope I've helped you today. I hope you enjoyed that video. I'm going to call it quits there. And we'll see you guys in the next video. And that's $333,000 roughly that they've received in the last 2 days when I've been doing my blogs. And it's only the beginning, but things are starting to happen. Stay tuned about Goliath Ventures and we'll see what happens in the future. Catch you in the next video. I'm still here. How you going, guys? Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch browsers because before I went live, I opened up a whole lot of browsers hoping that I could potentially find some Zoom meetings. Yesterday we had a lot of fun with the lady who was, we've found out since that this lady that we were talking about has actually been bankrupt 3 times in 10 years. And I'm going to show you what we were doing. But she'd been bankrupt. Her and her husband had bankrupt 3 times in 10 years. 18 months ago, she was bankrupt. And they were in debt by $500,000. So yesterday, we actually managed to find that lady running a Zoom meeting, which was absolutely incredible. So I'm just going to flip screens here, and this is probably going to go pear-shaped. Let's go to here, and I'll just bring the right one up. I've got beach balls there. Okay, so hopefully that's not too bad, and that's exactly what I thought would happen. So I'll just fix that up. So we're going to go to screen share. We're going to go to Chrome, and we're going to go to, I think it's that one there. Alrighty, so what we did have a bit of fun with yesterday is we had this lady this is one of my biggest videos.
Monitor the Bond Chat app for the free trade.
Okay, so I've gone in there with my real name.
It will be reissued, and you will follow these same steps again.
Right, so this lady was having problems with this guy. This one's locked at the moment, unfortunately.
I can't even get back to my. My presentation. Let me see.
Poor lady.
Stopped sharing there.
So what I did, I stepped in and offered her a hand. Screen. So that's her profile. We need her phone number though, so we can ring her up, cause even more mayhem. But let's go back and see what she does at the moment. There's going to be some questions coming up. Here we go.
Okay, guys, I think I'm going to have to stop the Zoom tonight because the hackers, unfortunately, they won tonight because I can't figure out how to get them off my Zoom. I've tried to lock the screen out several times. I think is Gwen want to say something to help out this situation? Perhaps I'll actually lock the screen out so no one can actually do anything.
Look, I'm happy to place it for you if you want. If you make me an admin, I'll keep it. You can carry on. I'll make sure I kick everyone out. I'm really good at using Zooms.
Oh, are you Gwen?
Yeah, I am. I'm Gwen's iPhone, but I monitor Zoom meetings. I can help you out if you want. But don't worry if you don't. It's just offering a hand.
Okay, I'm not that good at this stuff. I mean, it took me forever just to figure out how to do Zoom to begin with. And, all right. So how, let me see, so right now, I think I locked the screen out. So, well, actually you were able to talk, so you must not be locked out. So how do I give you, rights?
If you go to Gwen's iPhone, you just go up there and just make me co-host or something like that. And then I can monitor the room for you and you can carry on.
All right, thank you.
Can't believe she did this.
I'm trying to figure out where I can find your name here in the participants list here.
I've got my hand up, so I'll be at the top of the list. And then I can remove people.
Yeah. Oh, wait, let's see if I can put it says make host. Is that the same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
So do you want to change host to Gwen and I'll say yes?
Yeah, thank you. And I'll lower my own hand. There you go. Way you go. Carry on.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me start to share my screen again. Let's see. Sharing is not turned on. Now it's not letting me share my screen. Okay, wait, I think I gotta.
Brace yourself, guys. This is
the recording has stopped.
That's because I just kicked her out. How you doing? BG Wealth Sharing is actually a scam. And my name is Danny DeHeck. I'm an international scam fighter, and obviously I've just come in here and taken over this meeting. But Stephen Beard is not a real person. And probably the best thing I can do is probably show you from the information that we have to just sort of give you an idea of what I'm going on about. I don't know if I've got the right screen on here. Yes, I have. So if you went to my website, dheck.com or danny.co.nz, you'll see that I have I've been in a 2-page spread in the New York Times. I've been in a Bloomberg documentary. These are all the newspapers that I've been in for me exposing scams. And I'm doing a live in a couple of hours on a scam I just busted, which is $328 million running out of Florida. But if you come down here enough, you'll find I've done quite a few blogs all about BG wealth sharing. Now, Crypto G is an expert when it comes to crypto, and he's literally shown that their website has been made by somebody in India, and we've actually even got
That's the coming back in, by the way.
file that they're using to pretend they have a real exchange. So if you really want to find out whether this is true or not, that's the problem. That you know, we can prove it without, I've just got so much data on BG wealth sharing. I'm just seeing if I can actually bring up some sensible blogs. And it originated in New Zealand. This scam used to be called.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you, Dawn. How are you?
Listen, everybody, if you would please exit the Zoom.
No, stay in here. You want to stay in here because this is
has hacked into my Zoom. This gentleman.
No, I haven't hacked. I'm actually an investigative journalist. No, Dawn, and I've got a file on you, Dawn. I actually have a file on you.
Remember, she gave me permission.
This is actually not right, Dawn. You're actually promoting a scam. You're actually promoting a scam, and you need to be stopped. We've tracked you, and we are monitoring. Dawn, if you don't listen to me, you're not interested in this being. If I can prove to you that this is a scam, you know this is a scam, and you do this for a living. So you are a scammer.
I'm not going to get into a debate.
No, it's not a debate. I've got the receipts, and I've proven this. I've worked with federal government, and I shut down people like you who are running scams. You are a scammer, and I have a file on you, Dawn, and you should not be in here doing this. You're a disgusting bottom feeder information, that lady. You cannot be in here. So I'm going to bring in the Avengers here. The Avengers are the people that go after people like you. Now, Dawn, this is your profile that I have on you. And I have got other people who are promoting BG wealth sharing in my database. These are other people that are running Zoom meetings, and they are all running. So this guy here, we go into the Ponzi schemes, we go into BG wealth sharing, and here is a file I've got building so I can go to federal governments and report the people that are promoting this Ponzi scheme and scam. We've got everything you can think of. I'm not a sir. Don't call me sir. Do not condescend me.
Something to say, just go ahead and do what you got to do, okay? And leave us alone. Okay?
I'm not going to leave you alone to scam people. You're a bottom feeder. You should not be doing this. It's just disgusting that you think you can go in here and tell people to invest $500 with a guy that doesn't even exist. Peter Beard is not even a real person. He's an AI. There's no digital footprint of him existing at all. Can you prove he's got a digital footprint or exist? Can you prove anything other than watching a 480 DPI video of some guy hiding behind a camera who can't get out from behind the camera because he's got cables on his face? I mean, this is how stupid this is. Like I've got.
Are you done? Are you done?
No,
yet?
I'm not done. I'm not going anywhere. And in fact, I'm going to open up the room to all my other Avengers.
I'm just gonna ask everybody.
No, you can ask people to leave, Dawn, but you can't you can't deny the fact that you're promoting a Ponzi scheme and a scam.
This is
not your Zoom. You're not allowed to even. You're not allowed to promote multi-level marketing on Zoom.
Even be on here.
Look, Zoom Patrol. Let me tell you how it is, lady. This is Zoom Patrol. This here is me going into Zoom meetings, shutting them down. Now, in this acceptable user guideline policy, this is Zoom's policy, and it says you are not allowed to use. You're not allowed to use Zoom to do multi-level marketing. It's in the same category as doing drugs, human trafficking, and your sexual services. You're not allowed to use Zoom. And you're just telling me,
for you, this is not a
listen here,
multi-level
Dawn, you do not
market. This
realize
is
the
an investment
seriousness of what you are
platform.
doing. You are going down. You are going to get arrested. You are going to be locked up in a federal
Fine.
prison
That's
because you are
fine.
promoting
That's
it.
fine.
Right.
Okay,
So I'm
but
going to
just
open up this
please
meeting now.
respect
It's not
my,
respect. You have
Zoom.
no respect in your body whatsoever. You are a thief. This is me here. I'm in New Zealand and my name is Danny DeHeck. Search who you're talking to, lady, and have some respect for me.
I know who I'm talking to.
I thought you might. So now you need to get off the internet and stop telling people what to do with their money. You're not a regulated financial advisor. You're promoting securities that are not authorized. They do not have SEC approval. They have filed a piece of paper to say that they are exempt, which does not mean they are anything to do with SEC. Peter Beard does not exist. The exchange does not exist. And there's no such thing as cut and pasting trading. It does not exist. It's just all being used by a bunch of deadbeat scammer no lives like yourself. Now stop it and get yourself a real job. Go work in the supermarket.
Your opinion, Mr.
It's not my
DeHeck.
opinion. I have the receipts. You have no proof of what you're preaching.
Okay.
I'm broadcasting this live on the internet, Dawn. And people can see you and they know who you are. I've got your photos. I'm working on getting your phone number and I'm going to call you and put you back in your little wee box where you belong. You're a disgusting individual. You've got a history of doing this. I've seen your YouTube channel. I've seen your Facebook page. We're monitoring you and we're coming after you with everything we've got. We're sick and tired of people like you. How do you sleep at night?
Very well, thank you.
Good. We'll get off this Zoom because I've taken over. You've been told. And now we're going to play a video to show you what a disgusting person that you are.
Oh, my God.
Let's go to my YouTube channel. Now, watch this. You see, this is me live on the internet right now.
All right, we're going to leave it there. But that was yesterday's video, which I don't want to be doing this for a living, guys. But I want to give you a bit of background. So what we've done is we did actually have a file on this individual and her husband, Bill. And we do have their phone numbers, but they use VoIP phone numbers, which means that very hard to actually complain to anyone about them. This, what we've found is since then, these people have a sales funnel website, and it's Dawn and Bill. And you can see that they're actively promoting one of the biggest Ponzi schemes and scams happening in the world at the moment. Click here to get started. They've even got one of these showing you how much money calculators on their website. You know, the watch the wave, you know, it is full blown, you know, promotion. And this isn't their first rodeo. This couple has been bankrupt 3 times in the last 10 years. The last time was 18 months ago, where they left a debt of $500,000. This is the type of people that are promoting these Ponzi schemes and scams. Here I are thinking a lot of these people will claim that they've done really well with network marketing. And if you listen to them, you are going to be doing well as well. But the honest reality of it, this lady is well, after 18 months, I'm pretty sure she'll still be bankrupt. I'm not sure how long bankruptcy lasts, but she won't be able to use a credit card and all that sort of carry on. Dawn's not an innocent lady running a Zoom meeting. She's not a victim. She's not an individual who thinks she's doing good for the community. She's a rotten, disgusting bottom feeder on the planet. And as you look here at her videos, her whole video channel, she has 2,300 subscribers. She has 30 videos online. I can only assume that the videos that go back to the start here, her video channel started putting videos on a month ago, all about BG wealth sharing. She's grabbed other people's content. She's put it all online. Now, I can guarantee you that you don't get 2,380 subscribers all within a month. So this lady will be removing all the bad Ponzi schemes and scams that have fallen over, and she'll be putting all the current scams that she's promoted in the limelight. So how do I know that? Well, let's have a look. We can see that her YouTube channel was created back in 2017. She's got only 30 videos. So what can you do? Well, you can report this user. You can report them for a scam
spam or scam, you're next. And then you can tick all the videos that she's promoting. And to be honest, what difference does this make? Nothing. Because YouTube allows scammers to be on their system. But if we tick all these videos, we'll get to say something at the end. I might as well tick the whole lot. Didn't come this far not to tick. But you can report people's YouTube channels. But these YouTube channels, you just fire up another one. Go next. And there we go here. This lady is promoting BG. So it's BG Wealth Sharing. This has been flagged by 10 different countries as a large-scale Ponzi scheme and scam. These videos are misleading people, thinking they are investing in a investment opportunity that is legitimate, and it's not. Do a quick search and you'll see what I mean. Right. Well, come back in a couple of days and we'll see whether this YouTube channel has broken the guidelines of YouTube. Guarantee it will stay there. It makes no difference. Yes, and that was yesterday, by the way. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. So there's no innocent bystanders. We did find her phone number. We did find that she's even got a website. There is other things that we could do. So there's a couple of things here I'm looking at. So first of all, I'm looking at Smart Money Project Net. Now, I don't believe that's their website. I believe that's a place where you can create sales funnels. All members in BG Wealth. So there you go. So there's a website out there set up where people, that's amazing. So it's a smart money project. So I'm even not aware of that. But this here says for all BG Wealth, for members in BG Wealth Success. So you must be able to create your own portal within here. But there is another website and it's called BG. Oops. I'm going to go get it. And we're going to have a look at this domain name. Right, so if you ever want to look up a domain name, you can go to, first of all, the fun one is to go to archive.org and you put in their domain name. So they've got BG-investment group. So even their domain name says they're getting investments. So we go whois.com and then you can put in the domain name at the top and it will tell you who hosts the domain name. So this domain name, and this is how it works in my world, guys. So this is their domain name. You come down to here and it's hosted with GoDaddy. If I wanted to report this to GoDaddy for their website hosting that, do you know what I have to do? I have to actually get a court injunction by a judge, and I have to prove that these individuals are committing a crime before GoDaddy will actually remove this from their system. If they were hosting with just about any other domain name provider, I would be able to get this website removed. So a wee while ago, we got smartlab.international removed because we've got one of our Avengers is called the Terminator, and he knows what to do to shut down these domain names. As soon as your domain name's hosted, I shouldn't be telling you guys this, with GoDaddy, it's just so hard for us to get these websites removed. Now, the other thing I mentioned briefly yesterday with Dawn, was she doing anything illegal by using Zoom? Well, technically, no, she wasn't. But if you do go to my website, toheck.com, under the Contact Us button, you hold your mouse over here, you'll see that we've got Zoom Patrol. Now, Zoom Patrol is where we ask people to give us links to Zoom meetings that are running multi-level marketing. If you come here and you read through all this here, you'll see the acceptable user guidelines. And the acceptable user guidelines, it tells you that you're not allowed to use Zoom to promote multi-level marketing unless you're authorized and you have a letter. And as Bob said, you need to hold up that letter and prove to people you're authorized to do multi-level marketing on Zoom's platform. Not that they enforce it. They used to. We used to have them shut down left, right, and center. But now it's just about impossible for us to get a Zoom link shut down. So multi-level marketing is in the same category as counterfeit goods and services, drugs, human smuggling or trafficking, products made from protected species, sexual services, gambling, betting, wagering, and stolen goods is in the same category of promoting multi-level marketing. Not allowed to sell weapons either. Good to know. But, I mean, that's what she was doing. So if this lady has been bankrupt 3 times in 10 years, if she left debtors with $500,000 worth of debt. She's on Zoom and promoting a Ponzi scheme or a scam that's been flagged by 11 or 12 different other countries. It's absolutely ridiculous that this lady's allowed to actually be on the internet doing so. The world needs to change. Things need to change. I mean, whether we need to start doing submissions to the government and explaining what's going in, because a lot of these government departments that we report to are like months behind what's actually happening on the ground. I'm a foot soldier. My team of Avengers are in the trenches fighting these guys head on head. I do not really want to be going head to head with people in a Zoom meeting. So what happened with my video I did yesterday? Well, would you believe that Dawn decided it would be a good idea to report my video to YouTube? So now, and why has she done that? Well, it's quite funny actually. If you go in here, we've got 87 comments, and in here we've got people basically saying, "I love BG wealth sharing. BG is going like a big win, something or other, you know." Jelly Smack, best ever. Thank you, Jelly Smack. You're awesome. But reading through the comments is pretty hard case. I like to reply to most people's comments. I don't actually remove comments unless they're terrible, you know, unhuman. I like a bit of banter. BG is bigger than you understanding your face can tell. You know, this is the type of thing. And then, you know, so there's so many people out there promoting this scam at the moment is hard case. So why did I play it in today's video? Well, that's in case that video does get removed. Why do I record live? Well, it's harder for people to get content removed from a live stream than it is a static video. The amount of videos I've had removed since I've been in my YouTube career is probably about 20 videos. So after publishing 2,600 videos, to be able to keep that many videos online when I'm going head to head with these scammers, it's not too bad. So yesterday I republished my videos. This video here, people say I do it because I'm trying to cheat. It's not. I'm trying to keep the content alive. So here's our video here with our friend Dawn, and it's had 121 views. The other video I just played was yesterday's live. It's had over 1,000 views, which is really, really cool. I reproduced my content. So over here, we've got the Orlando Economic Partnership, the Goliath video I did yesterday. I actually also published that as a blog. And I'm going to show you, there's a method of my madness. So if I go to my, a podcast. So if I come to let's say if I come here and I show you the video I did yesterday. So I've published it as a photo. I've published it as a blog, and then down here, I've also published it as a podcast. And what that basically means, it gives me a massive footprint on the internet and very hard for my content to be removed. So if you were to search for the title of the blog, you will probably see it comes up in my actual website first, LinkedIn, YouTube, Rumble, X, and then it starts going back to my website. And somewhere in here, you'll actually find that my blog will start coming up as a podcast. So you see my podcast starts coming up in the results, and that's sort of what I do. So I'm actually mass publicizing my content. So if you want to help me out, really, you could go to iTunes, find my podcast, and then subscribe to it. And then you can see this is the blog I did yesterday, and you can listen to it. To listen to explicit episodes, sign in. Oh, okay. Oh, didn't know it was explicit, but they must have marked it as explicit, probably because, I don't know. Anyway, so that's sort of what we do to get our footprint out there, just so you're educated. And that's why I don't sleep much, because after I finish today, I'll chop this video up. If it's okay, I might make it a podcast. I chop up my content. I might make a few shorts. For example, I made a short for the video today. I actually used the wrong images. But you can see we do a few shorts. Some shorts that I do really are pretty cool. This one here always makes my Avengers laugh.
Everyone.
But
no one dares touch me. You have to understand, right? You have to.
Hello, everyone.
This is
Thank
Jarvis,
you,
a scammer.
These details.
He just asked whether anyone's filming so he can light up a smoke. So, and then a few months after he did this, he had a stroke and he tried to sue me for $300,000. American for his medical bills.
No one dares
Sam
touch
Lee,
me.
$1.9 billion scammer.
Where
This guy,
all the negative content in there basically says they're not, says that it's illegal.
Yeah. And I'm telling people, I'm like, guys,
you know,
not a fan of is a pump and dump. This is,
you know, like these ones here. So we spend a lot of time doing it.
No, you can't.
Anyway, so that's me today, I think. But what I want to do is I've got all these Zoom meetings opened up before the meeting starts. I'll just get rid of the best viewers guy. We don't need him. So I'll delete people like that, you see. And he's out of here. You have no respect in your body. You have no respect in your body, Danny DeHeck. I love this. Okay. Oh, dear. Well, I'm glad that's seen the funny side of that, but it is quite a hard case sometimes. But let's see if we can find an open Zoom meeting. It's probably a bit late at night for you guys now to know any live Zooms, but sometimes we do get those private Zooms. We had one yesterday that was quite funny of these people coming up with a new scam idea, but that's a different story. If you watched yesterday's, you know what I'm talking about. But let's just go. What's that one there? So what I'm looking for is waiting for the host to start the meeting, and I'm actually looking for anyone that's got a live Zoom meeting. And we call this Zoom Patrol. But if you don't know it, I actually have over 150 tabs open, and this isn't all my tabs. These are just the ones that are easy peasy lemon squeezy. And every day there's another person or another organization out there trying to pitch another opportunity where you can invest. People say to me, oh, you just call all investments scams. And I go, well, I do. And there is a reason for that, because there's no such thing as a high return on investment. I mean, I used to be in a religious cult. I had a lot to do with it. The detrimental effects that had on me and my immediate family were off the scale. And when it comes to these Ponzi schemes and scams, there's a striking parallel between people out there peddling the passive income dream, telling you that if you give them your money, they will make you more money than they technically earn. And all these people that claim to be very successful stuck inside these Zoom meetings, they just don't have a life themselves because they're chasing the same dream. So practice what you preach comes to mind. But obviously there's no Zooms going here at the moment, so I'm going to call it quits for today. It's Friday afternoon. It's 4:05, and I'm thinking of actually starting my Zooms an hour earlier because I've been quite consistent this week at doing a Zoom 2 o'clock New Zealand time, and I assume that's around about 7 or 8 o'clock your time, and it's probably bedtime for a lot of people who are watching this right now. Anyway, if you can support us in any which way or form, please do. You can hit the join button underneath the video and become a member of my YouTube channel. That truly does make a difference. It's only $1 a month. Most people can afford that. If you can't afford that, that's fine with me. I'm not here for the money, but I do need it. Do thank the person that gave me the donation through this. This week alone in donations, I think I've had $30, just to put it into perspective for people who think I might be living the dream here. But every $5 note does make a difference, so feel free to share some love. Just go to the website and you can find out how to do that. And we'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow, maybe an hour earlier than I was today. But thank you for being here. Good night. Midnight in Orlando. Oh my goodness, is it? Oh my goodness. Go to bed now. Don't start watching this. Yeah, I might try and start an hour earlier, but from the other's perspective, I actually need to have a bit of a life myself. And I've got a headache right now as I've been doing this today because I've just been burning the candle at both ends, and I need to stop every now and again and enjoy life. You enjoy life. See you in the next video, guys.